أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا. وأعوذ به من شر نفسي إن النفس لأمارة بالسوء إلا ما رحم ربي. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين خاتم النبيين سيدنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المطهرين المكرمين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من أول يوم ظلمهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. صلى الله عليك سيدي ومولاي يا رسول الله، وعلى أهل بيتك المعصومين المنتجبين. صلى الله عليك وعلى بضعتك الطاهرة المظلومة سيدة نساء العالمين. صلى الله عليك سيدي ومولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة، ويا باب نجاة الأمة، يا عبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة. يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. قال الله العظيم في محكم كتابه الكريم وهو أحسن القائلين وأصدق الصادقين: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يوم ينظر المرء ما قدمت يداه ويقول الكافر يا ليتني كنت ترابا. آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. لقبول الأعمال ولتطهير الأنفس ولتعجيل فرج سيدنا ومولانا صاحب العصر والزمان، عطروا مجالسكم بذكر الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. It's a title that was beloved to Amir al-Mu'mineen. It was an epithet that was given to the commander of the faithful by the messenger of God himself. It was a description used to talk about Amir al-Mu'mineen by his enemies, seeking to distort his reputation and character assassinate him. Yet it's a description that displays his excellence and status. Abu Turab, the father of soil, is a title given to Amir al-Mu'mineen wa Mawla al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. It's a title that Amir al-Mu'mineen loved dearly. It's a title that he used to ask people to refer to him by. And it was a title that indeed was a means of honor for him because it was from Rasulullah. Because when you recognize Amir al-Mu'mineen had a number of titles, had a number of names. I have a book by the name of Mu'jam al-Qab Amir al-Mu'mineen. It has over 915 titles and names given to Amir al-Mu'mineen. Most of us have heard some of them For example, Abu al-Hasanain. For example, Amir al-Mu'mineen. For example, Ya'sub al-Din, Mawla al-Muttaqeen, Babu Madinat al-Ilm, Asadullah al-Ghalib. Are so many of these titles are found, isn't it? Indeed, at the outset, people ask the question, what is the difference in Arabic between laqab and kunya? Because Abu Turab is known as the kunya of Amir al-Mu'mineen. We are told that the kunya in Arabic is when you have a prefix ab or For example, Abu Abdullah or al-Banin is known as what? A kunya. A laqab is a description, it's an epithet that's given to certain individuals, normally characterizing their personality or displaying some kind of understanding of their qualities or their characteristics. Hence you find during the time of the Holy Prophet Rasul al-A'zam Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, there was a number of Sahaba who were given these titles. There was a number of individuals who were given these particular alqab. For example, you have a man by the name of Hanzala, Ghasilul Malaika. Hanzala was who? Was a man who got married. At night, this is the first night he spent with his wife. The next morning, he fought with Rasulullah. He attained martyrdom, but he had not done his ghusl. The Malaika washed his body. Yes, the Malaika washed his body. Remove the echo, please. The Malaika washed his body. And what happened? The Rasulullah called him Ghasilul Malaika. That the Malaika are the ones who indeed purified his body. That's number one. Number two, you have Ja'far al-Tayyar. You have, for example, Salman al-Muhammadi. You have Hamza, who is known as Sayyid al-Shuhada at that time. Indeed, the Messenger of Allah would pay special attention to names and titles. There are people who came to him which have names and the Prophet would change them. A person came who is a lady. Her name was Asiyah. The Prophet of Islam says, don't have this name, the one who is disobedient. I'll change it. I'll call you, for example, Jamila. Yes. Another person came to the Holy Prophet and said, Ya Rasulullah, my name is Dinar. Imagine today you hear someone who's called a pound or a dollar. Yes. Rasulullah changed his name to what? To Abdullah. When you come to the alqab and the kunya of Amir al-Mu'mineen is known as Abu al-Hasanain. Yes? That is his kunya because it has ab next to it. Some people say, is Abu Turab a kunya of Amir al-Mu'mineen? They say it is beautiful because Amir al-Mu'mineen has two. He has Abu al-Hasanain, yes, or Abu al-Hasan, and he has Abu Turab. But indeed, it was a matter of honor for Imam Ali salam to be called as such. Why? The narrations tell us, how is he called Abu Turab? The narrations tell us one day he was with Ammar ibn Yasir radwanullahi ta'ala alayh. When he was with Ammar, he was resting under a tree in a Ghazwat Bani Ashira. It is known in the second year after Hijrah. Amir al-Mu'mineen was with Ammar. They slept under the tree. Prophet of Islam was looking for them. The Prophet found Ammar and Amir al-Mu'mineen. He saw that when Amir al-Mu'mineen was asleep, there was dust and soil where on his face, on his body. He started to remove the turab and said to him, Qum Aba Turab. Rise, O the father of soil. Yes? And then he said to him, the worst of the people of the time before us is the man who slayed the she-camel of Salih. And the worst of the people in this time is the man who will dye your beard with your blood from your head. That was whom? That was the Prophet of Allah informing whom? Amir al-Mu'mineen, that his title is Abu Turab. Question, does it have further implications? Does it mean more than the father of soil? What does Abu Turab in reality refer to? We have some narrations which requires your attention. The narrations highlight that Abu Turab is given to Amir al-Mu'mineen to demonstrate his excellence and his qualities. Listen to this narration from Ibn Abbas. He comes forward and says, the reason why Amir al-Mu'mineen was called this, لأنه صاحب الأرض وحجة الله على أهلها بعده. Because Amir al-Mu'mineen is the man of this earth and the representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this earth. وَبِهِ بَقَاؤُهَا وَإِلَيْهِ سُكُونُهَا. Through Ali, is the continuation of life. And through Amir al-Mu'mineen is the tranquility of this earth. Then Ibn Abbas says, وَلَقَدْ سَمِعْتُ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم يقول إذا كان يوم القيامة. I heard the Prophet say, on the day of judgment, وَرَأَى الْكَافِرْ مَا أَعَدَّ اللَّهُ لِشِيعَةِ عَلِيٍّ مِنَ الثَّوَابِ. The kafir, the disbeliever, witnesses how much Allah has given from reward towards the Shia of Ali, وَالزُّلْفَ وَالْكَرَامَ, and the honor and dignity. يَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِي كُنْتُ تُرَابًا. The kafir will say, I wish I was a Turabi. I wish I was one of the followers of Abu Turab. Yes? Because in Surah Al-Fajr, what do we read? Yes? يَوْمَ يَنْظُرُ الْمَرْءُ مَا قَدَّمَتْ يَدَاهُ. On that day, people will see what they have offered. وَيَقُولُ الْكَافِرُ يَا لَيْتَنِي كُنْتُ تُرَابًا. No doubt, yes, that on the day of judgment, people will be remorseful. They will be saddened when they recognize that they have not taken the opportunity to be part of the Shia of the commander of the faithful, isn't it? To be of those who attain this salvation. Why? Because you and I know that Amir al-Mu'mineen is Qasimul Jannati wan Nar, isn't it? That as far as the distinguishing factor between Jannah and Jahannam, it's Amir al-Mu'mineen. Some people have a doubt over this. Doesn't the Holy Prophet of Islam in Sahih Muslim, the narration says that the Sahaba used to say, we were able to distinguish between a mu'min and a munafiq when we looked at whether they loved Ali ibn Abi Talib or not. And that's why you recognize that being associated with Abu Turab, being associated with Amir al-Mu'mineen is a matter of honor and pride for you and I. And it is our identity that we must protect. Why? Because I remember saying to someone, I am a Shia Muslim. They said, brother, please don't cause division between Muslims. Call yourself a Muslim. You don't need to call yourself Shia. You don't need to add something towards this title. I said to him, you do not understand. He said, what do you mean? I said to him, when you travel, what do you need? He said, when I travel, where? I said, to another country. He said, I need a ticket and I need a passport and I need a visa to enter that country. That's my minimum requirements, yes? I said to him, my ticket towards Jannah is Rasulullah. My passport towards Jannah is the Quran. And my visa towards paradise is Ali ibn Abi Talib. If you do not like it, then I respect it. But don't take my visa away from me. That is my process towards salvation, isn't it? That's why the famous poet, who is the Christian Lebanese poet by the name of Paul Salama, what does he say? He says, لا تقل شيعة هوات علي إن في كل منصف شيعية جلجل الحق في المسيح حتى عد من فرط حبه علوية. أنا من يعشق البطولة والإلهام والعدل والخلق الرضية. إذا لم يكن علي نبيا فلقد كان خلقه نبويا. فيا سماء اشهدي ويا أرض قري واخشعي إنني ذكرت عليا. I said to him, tell me of a man other than Ali who was born in the house of Allah and was raised by Rasulullah like no other. Tell me of another man like Ali who was the first to support the Messenger of God, who stood with him and slept in his bed whilst his life was at risk. Tell me of another man other than Ali who married Sayyidatu Nisa al-Alameen and the greatest female created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tell me of another man like Ali who defended Rasulullah and Islam in Badr, in Uhud, in Khandaq and Hunayn. Tell me of another man like Ali whom Rasulullah would say truth is with him and Ali is with the truth. Tell me of another man other than Amir al-Mu'mineen whom Rasulullah would say Quran is with him and he is with the Quran. I said to him, tell me of another man other than Ali that stood on the shoulders of Rasulullah, was the closest to Rasulullah, was the soul of Rasulullah, as the Quran said. I said to him, tell me of another man like Ali who defended the interpretation of the Quran, like how Rasulullah defended the tafsir of the Quran. I said to him, tell me of another man like Ali, whom the Prophet said, if you want to see Adam in his knowledge, and Nuh in his azm, determination, and Ibrahim in his hilm, as in his forbearance, and Musa in his patience, and Isa in his asceticism, look at Amir al-Muttaqeen wa Imam al-Mu'mineen wa Asadullah al-Ghalib, Ali ibn Abi Talib. This is a narration that is found in Shawahid al-Tanzil, Al-Hakim al-Hasakani, a non-Shia. He says that when it came to a man by the name of Sakhar ibn Hawb, he came to the Holy Prophet. He said to him, who is the individual after you to lead the Ummah? Ya Rasulullah, al-amru liman ba'dak. قال liman huwa minni bimanzilati Harun min Musa. To the one who is to me what Aaron was to Moses. فأنزل الله تعالى عما يتساءلون عن النبأ العظيم. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala revealed the first few verses of Surah An-Naba. What are they asking about? Of course, they're asking about the greatest news, isn't it? Hence, what do you find? You find the Prophet of Islam would say on numerous occasions and link the soil, the element of soil, with the commander of the faithful. Yes? He would continuously link it. Listen to this narration that is narrated by a man by the name of Al-Maghazili. He's a Shafi'i, a non-Shia. He says, from Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, Radwanullahi ta'ala alayhi, he said, when Amir al-Mu'mineen returned victorious from Khaybar, the Prophet of Islam, Al-Rasul al-Akram wa Nabi al-A'zam Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, Ya Ali, lawla an taqula طائفة من أمتي فيك ما قالت النصارى في عيسى. Oh Ali, if a group of my community would say something about you, what the Christians said about Jesus, I would have said something about you. لا تمر بملأ من المسلمين إلا أخذوا التراب من تحت رجليك. I would have said something that you wouldn't have walked anywhere except that people would take soil from under your feet. Then the Prophet of Islam would say, وَلَكِنْ حَسْبُكَ أَنَّكَ مِنِّي وَأَنَا مِنْكَ. But it's sufficient for you that you are from me and I am from you. وَإِنَّ شِيعَتِكَ عَلَى مَنَابِرَ مِن نُور. That your Shia are on high raised places on the day of judgment. مَبْيَضَّةٌ وُجُوهُهُمْ. Their faces are illuminated with light. حَوْلِي وَهُمْ فِي الْجَنَّةِ جِيرَانِ. It's sufficient that your Shia on the day of judgment, yes, are on these raised places and they are my neighbors, the Prophet of Islam says, in paradise, yes. That's why the same book, Shawahid al-Tanzil, says, Rasulullah says, when I went on to the Mi'raj, I saw on the gates of Jannah, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadun Rasulullah, ayyadtahu bi'ali. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala boasts to the malaika that I have supported Amir al-Mu'mineen, that I supported the Prophet with the commander of the faithful. Hence you recognize that Abu Turab is a beautiful title for the commander of the faithful. Some say it is related to his relationship with the poor and the orphans. In which way? Because he would sit with them on the ground. He would care about them. He would ask about them. He would provide them with food and nourishment. He was known as Abu Turab because he was the father of zuhud and asceticism. Meaning what? Meaning that he had a special care towards the needy, the destitute, the yatama, yes? He was known as Abu al-Yatama. One day he was passing and he saw children playing on the day of Eid. He saw a young boy who was standing there. He wasn't playing. He came to him and said, young boy, why aren't you playing with the rest of the children? He said to him, oh man, I am a yatim. My father is gone. I don't have new clothes. I'm ashamed to take part in this particular activity. I can't because I'm not given new clothes. Everyone have new clothes. Imam said, come with me. He took him, he gave him new clothes. He fed him and said to him, go. Now this young boy, the orphan, goes and plays with the other children. The other children are amazed. Just a while ago, you had no clothes, no new clothes. Who is it that fed you? Who is it that clothed you? He said, I have a new father. My father is Ali ibn Abi Talib. They say he's known as Abu Turab because of his humility, because of the fact that he would care for the needy, for the destitute. Don't forget the Aitam, yes? When you're here for the majlis of Sayyidatun Nisa Fatimah, yes, who left orphans. Yes. Amir al-Mu'mineen had what? A number of children who were orphaned, yes, isn't it? Of course, Imam Al-Hasan, Imam Al-Husayn, Sayyida Zainab, Kulthum were all orphans, yes? When you come to majlis of Fatima to Zahra, don't forget the 4 or 5 million orphans in Iraq. If each and every one of us today here in this country, or people in the West, would sponsor one orphan, do you know how much difference we can make? Do you know how much development we can have in those countries? Yes? Today we have a responsibility, if we are followers of Abu Turab, to make sure that we care for the needy and we care for those who require our help. Similarly, some people ask, why was he also called Abu Turab? Because of the fact that he used to love to perform sajda. He used to excessively prostrate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Zayn al-Abidin, one day, when he was known as Dhuthafanat, that his forehead would swell, that his son Imam Muhammad Al-Baqir alayhi salam would come and say to him, my father, your ibadah is amazing. He would say, Imam Zayn al-Abidin would say, Nawilni Sahifata Jaddi Amir al-Mu'mineen. Give me the book that describes the ibadah of my grandfather Ali. Then he would start to read it and says, Ayna ibadati wa ibadatu Ali ibn Abi Talib. Where is my worship with the worship of the commander of the faithful? He is known as Abu Turab. Why? Because of the very fact that he used to love to prostrate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and ibadah was something that was beloved to him. But I tell you, these qualities that you and I have just heard as far as the commander of the faithful were the aspects that annoyed his enemies like Muawiyah and others. They sought to distort his reputation. Please focus, because this is a question that I've seen posed online. Yes, I've seen it posed online on YouTube and different places, in which the Shia of Ali are asked this question. They asked this question, that this association that you have with Ali and Fatima, peace and blessings be upon them, their household was not necessarily a household that was what? That was always rosy, that he was given the title Abu Turab because he had a problem with his wife. Where does this exist? Sahih al-Bukhari, volume 5, hadith 2316. Yes? What does it say? It says the Prophet of Islam one day came to the house. When he came to the house, he saw Fatima upset. He said to her, Fatima, ma aghdabaki? Why are you angry? She said, there was something between me and Ali. We had a fight. We had a fight, yes. Amir al-Mu'mineen had a quarrel with me. The Prophet leaves the house. He asks someone, where is Ali ibn Abi Talib? He's told he's in the mosque. He comes to the mosque, he finds Amir al-Mu'mineen sleeping, and there is soil on his head, dust. He says to him, Qum Abu Turab, Qum, rise. They say that's why he's called Abu Turab. Today we have this challenge. You ask me, is this the only narration? I found numerous narrations that target the status and the maqam of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Sayyidatun Nisa, using this particular accusation that was fabricated by the likes of Muawiyah and others, yes, in order to attack the personality of Ali. I'm not surprised. You read history, people are told Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, was struck in the masjid. Did he used to pray? For approximately 100 years, the member was used to what? To spread hatred, yes, towards the commander of the faithful. Therefore, these aspects, these narrations have been presented. Similarly, in Bukhari, what do you find? You find the Prophet of Islam one day was approached by Sayyida Fatima. Sayyida Fatima says to him, Ya Rasulullah, my father, do you know what's happening? He said, what's happening? He says, Abul Hassan wants to marry the daughter of Abu Jahl. Please help me. The Prophet of Islam summons Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says to him, are you truly going to marry the daughter of Abu Jahl? He says, yes, Ya Rasulullah. The Prophet said, then my daughter and the daughter of a kafir cannot be under the same house. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, fine, I won't do it. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the type of fabrications that our history is so dark. And they say to us, why you have so much attachment towards the position and the status of the commander of the faithful? Yes? Why is it that you have so much attachment towards the ahlulbayt? When you see these kind of statements and narrations in the so-called sihah books that exist today, and people what? And people fight tooth and nail in order to defend them. I remember in Makkah al-Mukarramah one day in the roof, we used to give lectures in the good old times, not now. Good old times, there used to be lectures there. When I finished, there was a sheikh from Egypt, from the other schools, from our brothers. He came to me and said, what is your problem? I said, I don't have a problem. He said, you do? I said, what's my problem? He said, your problem is you don't like the Sahaba. I said to him, no, we like some Sahaba, and other Sahaba we have issues with. He said, what do you mean? I said to him, in Bukhari you have. He said, what do you mean? I said, Fatimah al-Zahra died angry with some of the Sahaba. How do you explain this? He looked towards the Kaaba. He says, Wallah, Fatima is a woman. She gets angry. I still remember that moment, yes? It shook me in that moment. When he said to me, she's a woman. She goes through certain emotional states. They are willing to defend certain individuals and what? Attack the daughter of Rasulullah. And that's why when we come to this, it is of the utmost importance that you and I, as the Shia of Ali and Fatima, are able to equip ourselves with the necessary tools and the knowledge to rise to the occasion and answer these questions and answer these misconceptions. In which way? I tell you, when someone gives you this narration, it's not sufficient for you to say, I don't agree with it. You know, that doesn't sound right. How can Amir al-Mu'mineen and Sayyidah Fatima quarrel? How can they be fighting? How can Rasulullah try to mediate between them and bring about reconciliation? That is not enough. We in the school of ahlulbayt, we are madrasatul aqli wal burhan. We are the school of intellect and evidence. Meaning what? Meaning I should be empowered with the knowledge of the Quran and the ahlulbayt to be able to present my arguments in the correct manner. Yesterday I mentioned something about those who debate in Speaker's Corner. Some people said, do you have a problem with this? No. Yes, mashallah, we have a few who are truly a blade in the hearts of the Shia of Abu Sufyan and Muawiyah. A blade. Yes. They have good qualities, mashallah. But the majority, unfortunately, I'm not talking about one or two individuals. May Allah bless them. They are doing good out there. But generally speaking, when you see the quality of our brothers when they go out there and debate, number one, they're not necessarily achieving that objective. Number two, there are much more effective ways out there today to utilize your ilm and to dispel myths and misconceptions. You ask me how. I say to you, these videos, 1-2 minutes, when they're shared on Facebook and they're played and they're spread around on different social media networks, they're very powerful. They're incredibly effective, yes? People watch them, especially if it's entitled with a controversial title, yes? Let me give you an example of how you and I should be ready at any moment, because we sometimes consider ourselves in a battlefield, ideological battlefield. There was a young boy, a young man, who used to live in a Gulf country, non-Shia country, yes? One day, he was in school, people used to mock him. You are a Shia, you are so on. You are an individual who exaggerates the status of Ali. Yes. One day, at that time, of course, and even today, the teachers keep someone to look after the classroom when they pop out for a minute. They're called the classroom keeper. So he was chosen to look after the classroom. When he was chosen to look after the classroom, what happened? The teacher went, he came back after a while. This young boy exercised his intellect and his knowledge, yes, at that moment to very much effectively spread an important point. He looked at his teacher and says, sir, can I ask you a question? He said, yes. He said, when you left the classroom, you made sure that I am there to look after the affairs of the class, that the class doesn't go into chaos, that everything is in order. True? He said, yes. He said, if you want to keep me to look after a class, how do you expect Rasulullah to leave this world without appointing a successor? This is the whole religion of Islam. How can they be left without leaving someone? The teacher was furious. He was angry. He said to him, you're teaching me? I'm supposed to be teaching you. Yes? Go. You're suspended. Go to the office of the head teacher. He goes to the office of the head teacher. The teacher says, what's the problem? He tells him what happens. When he tells him what happens, the head teacher says, tomorrow you come back and you bring with you your wali, the person who's in charge of you, yes? The person who has authority over you, meaning your parent or your guardian or someone who is looking after you, and we will suspend you from the school. Tomorrow he comes, knocks on the door, the headmaster says, come in. He comes in by himself. He says, where is your wali? He says, he's just outside. He said, call him. He comes in. Who comes in? His friend. The head teacher looks at him and says, how dare you? I tell you, bring your wali and you bring me your friend. The young boy smiles and says, I thought wali means friend. The man says, no, wali means someone in charge of you. The boy stands up and says, when Rasulullah said, man kuntu mawla, fahadha aliyun mawla, he means whomsoever I have authority over you, then Ali has the authority. Indeed, that is how effective we can be. When I have a conversation with my friend at school, when I have a conversation with my friend in college or at the place of work, when they see this greatest act of loyalty and love that is arba'een, when they talk about the Shia, use this opportunity to talk about the school of Ali Muhammad. Don't be afraid to express yourself as a Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Sayyida Fatima, Amir al-Mu'mineen, the Prophet, all the Imams are expecting every single one of us to be their ambassadors when we are in these kind of countries, that we proudly say, I am the Shia of Ali and I am absolutely honored with it. I have nothing to fear to express my loyalty, my love, my expression of willingness to do whatever it takes to demonstrate my wilaya towards the ahlulbayt alayhim as-salam. And this is a matter that must be understood. That's why an invitation to all my brothers and sisters is this. Please make an attempt, if you haven't done so already, to associate yourself with the shrines of the Ahl al-Bayt. Go for ziyarah. Wallah, sometimes I wonder, I speak to some brothers and sisters, they say, I haven't been to ziyarah, it's very difficult, it's not the right time. Yes, go for ziyarah number 1. Visit those shrines number 2. If you can, spend some time in Najaf, study perhaps for a week or 2 or a month, do a short course, interact with the ulama, for example, yes. Ideally go with a group. Sometimes some of us, because for example we're Iraqi or we know we have to go, I don't need to go to, no, go listen to a lecture, listen to a history of the Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam, listen to an understanding of who maqam of Ali is. When you go to Karbala, when you go Samarra, when you go Kadhimain, equip yourself, empower yourself. Get this nur of Ali Muhammad so you can come here and stand and proudly say, I am the Shia of Ali and Zahra. That is what you and I need to be keeping in our minds. Therefore, the question that today people ask is, how do you respond to these accusations, these narrations that say Fatima and Amir al-Mu'mineen were disputing, and that's why he was called Abu Turab. Number 1, we believe, and all Muslims believe, that Sayyidatun Nisa and Amir al-Mu'mineen are part of Ayatul Tathir. إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. Similarly, we are told in narrations that Amir al-Mu'mineen and Sayyida Fatima expressed that they never angered each other. Listen to this. Ya Fatima. We are told that the Imam Ali salam himself says, Wallah ma aghdabtuha wala akrahtuha wa ma ghadabatni. She never made me angry. I never made her angry. I never made her unhappy. Yes. Similarly, the Imam Ali salam knows very well that the Prophet of Islam said, whomsoever angers Fatima, angers Allah. There is absolutely no possibility for the Imam to anger Sayyidatun Nisa Fatima. And you know why they fabricated these narrations? It's to say that it wasn't only some individuals who angered Fatima. There are others who also angered Fatima. That is why, yes, you see these narrations and you wonder, because indeed the others are very clear. When I speak to people, I say to them, ask people this question regarding Sayyidatun Nisa Fatima. Number 1, we all know that indeed every single person must have a bay'ah on their shoulders of the Imam of their time. Man mata walam ya'rif imam zamane mata mitat al-jahiliyyah. Who was the Imam of the time for Sayyidatun Nisa Fatima after Rasulullah? Who was it? Number two, ask the question, why is it that we do not have knowledge of where the grave of Fatima is today? Why is her grave hidden? Number three, ask the question, why did she not want anyone to attend her funeral from those individuals? Number four, why was she buried at night? Number five, why did she not wish to speak to them? Yes, and she died angry with them. Ask these questions. These are important questions as far as demonstrating what? Our wilayah is concerned. Therefore, when we come to this area of very important, sensitive nature, there is a need for us to discuss the household of Ali and the household of Fatima in the notion that today we face a number of challenges. And I require your attention just a few more minutes to analyze a number of contemporary matters which affects you and I, which are related to the subject of the household of Amir al-Mu'mineen and the household of Sayyidatun Nisa. Salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. In which way? I ask you today, when you look at our practice of Islam, when you look at our practice of religion and our following of the ahlulbayt, have we forgotten the ethos of the religion? Have we made religion a tick list? Have we just focused on the rituals and not understood the essence of the teachings of this glorious household? Why do I ask this? Because people like myself, students of Islam, are bombarded with questions and challenges and problems in society that we must use the mimbar of Imam Al-Husayn alayhi salam to address. Let me give you a few of these challenges in order for us to seek illumination from the household of Ali and Fatima. Weddings, sensitive area. I tell you, what's happening in weddings? Today, I hear authentic reports, not hearsay, that in some weddings in our communities, there is the dancing between men and women, there is the free mixing, there is the dancing of the husband and the wife in front of the people. Who told you this is halal? I am shocked when I speak to people. They say to me, you know, it happens everywhere, and if I don't do it, my wedding is boring. One day I spoke to someone who said, you know, this was happening. Yes, the music and the dancing that was happening. Why 15, 20 years ago this was not the case here in the UK? Now we see it common in the weddings. I spoke to one brother. I said to him, what is happening? He said to me, he looked at me and says, Habibi, wallah chillax. I said to him, Habibi, wallah haram. He said, take it easy, it's one night. I said to him, whether it's one night or 1,000 nights, the disobedience. I asked him a question. Would you allow Sayyida Fatima to attend that program? Would you? Ask yourself this question. Would you send a card to Amir al-Mu'mineen and Sayyida Fatima? Attend my wedding. Come and see what's happening. I am your Shia. I'm the one I want to be chosen by you. The narration says, إذا كان يوم القيامة نادى مناد نكسوا رؤوسكم غضوا أبصاركم حتى تمر فاطمة بنت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. On the day of judgment, there will be a call. Lower your gazes, because Fatima is passing by. The narration, Sunni and Shia say, the Holy Lady of Light will look back. She would see and look at the eyes and the faces of people. Then she would say, come, you. She would choose certain individuals. And the narrations actually, different narrations point to different numbers. There are quite a few. And then she would say to Allah, Ya Allah, I'm entering Jannah. I want these people to enter with me. Allah says, Lakiha. Okay, you can have it. Then she says, I want those who follow and love those individuals to enter Jannah. The Almighty gives her two. Are we going to be of those chosen by Sayyidah? Is she proud of what she sees out there? She will see and she definitely knows about of what's going on in some of our weddings. Wallahi, if we don't speak today, in 20, 30 years' times, we've completely lost the plot out there. Yes? It is not only one night. I ask you, when it comes to divorces and challenges between husband and wife, I deal with them. I sometimes wonder, what happened to you as a Shi'i? He wants to punish his wife. He wants to make sure his wife doesn't have the children, doesn't see the children, or the wife takes him to court, thousands of pounds. He's a muwali, she's a muwaliya. But they are the arch enemies. And they want to exert as much punishment over the other. When it comes to our shabab, our brothers and sisters wanting to get married, Some of them are struggling. Yes. Some of them are turning in towards haram. Why? They come to their parents. I want to get married. You're still young. You know why? High expectations. Lavish weddings. Thousands of pounds spent on weddings. Places unbelievable. High expectations upon the people. Yes. What was the wedding of Sayyida Fatima and Amir al-Mu'mineen like? Simple. Oh, but brother, times have changed. You know, I have to keep up with the Joneses or the Haydari or whoever it is. Yes. In the idea that when I come to an individual, I have to recognize, would Sayyida Fatima be honored with me? Would she be proud with me or not? There's a request for you to come forward. Please, to make space for those who are arriving. Rahimallahu man dhakara al-qa'im min Ali Muhammad. Please come forward. Jazakum Allah khair al-jaza' bi barakat as-salati ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. أفضل الأعمال الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. على حب السيدة الطاهرة صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Has the remembrance of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Fatima been reduced to only majalis? Or do their role have a significance upon our lives on a daily basis? And you say to me, how? Wallah, I look at what's happened in social media, Facebook and Twitter. Sometimes I'm surprised. Believers, brothers and sisters, tearing each other apart. Tearing scholars and speakers and attacking them just because you don't like them. Just because they said something that you don't necessarily agree with. Yes? Using these platforms to spread slander, backbiting, discord, disunity. Yes? Have we missed the point as far as our allegiance with the ahlulbayt is concerned? That's why I say here that the household of Ali and Fatima, their number one quality was that it was the household of wilayah. And you and I need to be of the people of wilayah, because the Quran says, if you wish to be illuminated, look at the household of Ali and Fatima. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allahu nuru as-samawati wal-ard. And then he says the next verse, في بيوت أذن الله أن ترفع ويذكر فيها اسمه. That his light is found in these households, that he himself has allowed to be raised, because his remembrance is profound. Question, which households are these? Allama Hafiz Jalal al-Din al-Suyuti in Ad-Durr al-Manthur says that the Sahaba asked the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, Ayy buyutin hadi? Which houses are these? The Prophet says, Buyutul Anbiya, the houses of the prophets. Someone then asks him, Abaytu Aliyin wa Fatima minhuma? Rasulullah is asked, is the household of Ali and Fatima one of them? The Prophet responds, Bal min afdalihima. It is amongst the greatest, where you will find the nur of Allah. If I want today to be a principled individual, to lead my life in the way that Amir al-Mu'mineen and Sayyida Fatima want to, in the way that Abu Turab has taught, I need to go back to my principles. Yes, in that I need to be an individual who is not shaken by temptations in society. Just because someone tells me, let me do this and that and take a day off from my faith and my identity, I don't bow down to that pressure. That's why someone asks, what is the household of wilayah? Tell me, how do I seek benefit from the household of Fatima al-Zahra and Amir al-Mu'mineen? I say to them, the household of wilayah was founded upon 3 S's, which produced 1 S. Number 1, the 3 S's are what? Servitude, submission, and service. And it produced for the sake of Allah. Remember these 3, yes? Servitude, submission, and service. Let's have a look. When you look at the household of wilayah, the household of nur, the household of prosperity and success, the household of Jannah. What do you find about Amir al-Mu'mineen and Sayyidah Fatima? They did not take matters such as salah lightly. What do you mean? When it comes to our prayers today, we hear and sometimes we get discussion with some of our brothers when they talk about, for example, the challenges facing them as far as Salatul Fajr is concerned, waking up for Salatul Fajr, isn't it? Let's talk about these absolutely frankly, isn't it? Because the Quran says, وَأْمُرْ أَهْلَكَ بِالصَّلَاةِ وَاسْطَبِرْ عَلَيْهَا. Sayyidatun Nisa mentions salah in her khutbah. وَجَعَلَ اللَّهُ لَكُمُ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْزِيهًا مِنَ الْكِبَرِ. Allah has made salah for you to exonerate you, to purify you from arrogance, isn't it? Imam Al-Hasan Al-Mujtaba, salamullahi alayhi, says, I used to see my own mother performing salah and praying for my neighbor before praying for ourselves or for our household. The question today is, why are we facing challenges as far as waking up for Fajr? As an example, some people say this is basic. No, our youth need to get the basics right. People ask, how do I wake up for Fajr? I'm struggling. Yes, tell me some tips. Number one, it's very easy. We are told that as far as Fajr is concerned, we have to subconsciously train our mind to make sure that we believe it's important. That means if I miss my Fajr, I must be remorseful and guilty. And I feel this nadam. I feel this sorrowness. Some of us, mashallah, miss Fajr every day and it's as if nothing has happened. No problem, brother. You know, I'll just make it up, isn't it? Yes? There has to be this idea of guilt that exists, number one. Number two, we are told don't sleep late. Ulama have ishkal. If you sleep late and you know you're not going to wake up, there is a problem, isn't it? Don't take your salah lightly. People say, well, I pray my dhuhr, asr, maghrib and isha, but my fajr is, you know, I can't because I have to stay up late and so on and so forth, do my studying and whatever. لن ينال شفاعتنا من استخف بصلاته. Forget it. Imam al-Sadiq says, you want our shafa'a? Take your salah lightly. We'll say to you, fi amanillah. Bye-bye. Yes? No shafa'a. It's a statement you and I have heard, but it's reality. It's something you and I need to be keeping into consideration. Similarly, we are told tasbihat sayyidatun nisa at night is very powerful. Before you go to sleep, try it. Perform the tasbih. Also, go to sleep in the state of wudu, because your bed will turn into a masjid in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is worshipped. Similarly, we are told recite the final ayah of Surah Al-Kahf, chapter 18, verse 110. قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ يُوحَى إِلَيْ أَنَّمَا إِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ. You recite this before you sleep. The narrations tell us that Allah will appoint angels that will wake you up to the time of your choosing. It is of the utmost importance that we don't take this lightly. That's number one. Number two, the household of Wilaya was a household of the Quran. What do we mean? Today, many of us know of the importance of the Holy Book. And I'm not here to remind you of its importance. But I tell you, how many times you and I have examined and sought areas for our bodies in order to nourish it and to strengthen it. Some of us go to the gym. Some of us seek certain products because we know our bodies require what? Require some kind of strengthening, require some form of nourishment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the soul, and He knows the soul is more complex than the body. And the Quran has been sent as healing for the soul. وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ. My dear brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this book because He knows our ailments, He knows our problems. What He's asking us to do is to speak to the Quran and say to the Quran, transform me, build me, fix me, make my life better. Allah knows what is the remedy of the soul. This is known as Al-Tibbul Ilahi, the medicine of the Creator. Yes. When you and I look at the Quran, and when you and I are encapsulated with the Quran, yes, we allow it to transform our lives. Meaning what? People ask the question, why are certain stories of prophets included and not others? Why does the Quran speak in a particular way and not others? Allah knows exactly what the soul requires. Therefore, He's asking you and I, invite the Quran to your heart and see the difference. I ask you today, how much of us have invested from our time as far as tafsir of the Quran, as far as memorization of the Quran, as far as understanding of the Quran and learning and reciting? Yes, we have tafsir programs here in London and other places. Wallah, I see 4 or 5 people attend for years. 4 or 5 people attending tafsir. In English! 3 years tafsir, I see 4 or 5 people happening here in North London. Why? What is happening? Is it that we have abandoned the Quran? Is it that we are not really worried about what is going to happen on the day of judgment? وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ يَا رَبِّ إِنَّ قَوْمِ اتَّخَذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَهْجُورًا. Ya Allah, my community has abandoned the Quran. Yes, look at Sayyidatun Nisa Fatima. In over 20 occasions in her famous sermon, she refers to the Quran. How many? 20. And when you examine those around her, they were empowered with the Quran. Abdullah Mubarak says, I was traveling, I saw a lady traveling by herself in the desert. I looked at her and said, oh lady, what are you doing? She looked at me and recited, وَقُلْ سَلَامٌ فَسَوْفَ يَعْلَمُونَ. Verse from the Quran. Said, say salam, you will know. I said, Salamun alaykum. I said to her, where are you coming from? She said, سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى. I recognized that she is coming back from Mecca. Yes. She recited this verse. I said to her, oh lady, are you a human being or a jinn? You're talking the Quran to me. She said, Ya Bani Adam, خُذُوا زِينَتَكُمْ عِنْدَ كُلِّ masjid. Oh sons of Adam, when you go to masjids, wear or be respectful. I said to her, then you must ride on the camel with me. She looked at me and says, لو كان فيهما آلهة إلا الله لفسدتها. If there's 2 gods, yes, this whole creation would not continue. Which means what? Don't sit with me in the camel. I sit by myself. He looks at her on the way. He asks her, are you married? Now he's interested. He says to her, are you married? She looks at him and says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تسألوا عن أشياء إن تبد لكم تسؤكم. Oh, you believe? Don't ask questions that if I give you the answer, you're not going to be happy about. Yes? Thereafter what? They reach somewhere, she starts calling. Yes? Ya Yahya, خذ الكتاب بقوة. Muhammadun Rasulullah. Yes? صحف إبراهيم وموسى. Her sons come out, who are referred to as this. This man says, who is this lady? All that she does is speaks to me with the Quran. They reply, they say, this is Fidda, the servant of the daughter of Rasulullah. For 20 years she has spoken nothing other than the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is our inspiration, isn't it? That is our inspiration. An individual who dissolved herself in the beautiful personality of Sayyida Fatima, and look at her legacy today. Yes, Lady Fidda Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayha. That's an important aspect in our lives. And the final S is service, isn't it? That Sayyida's house with Amir al-Mu'mineen was a house of generosity, a house of making a difference in society, a house of transformation, a house of giving, a house of altruism. In which way? You and I have heard of the story of the what? Of the 3 that came on separate 3 days. وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا. Isn't it? We also have heard of the story of the necklace where Sayyida Fatima gives away her necklace. We've also heard of her giving away her wedding dress. Yes, on the eve. Wallah, I say this. If someone had come and knocked on the door of Fatima, just knocked, yes? Not pushed the door. If they had knocked on the door, someone else, and would have said, Sayyida, can you give me fadak? Wallah, Fatima would have given fadak. Would have given away fadak. Fadak is nothing. Yes, as far as dunya is concerned. But she fought for fadak because it was a symbol against dhulm and oppression. Yes. Ibn Abi al-Hadid's teacher himself, Al-Mu'tazili, in Sharh of the Nahj, says yes, she fought for fadak because in reality it was a stance against what? Against the usurping of the Khilafah from her husband. There's no doubt. Sayyida Fatima was the epitome of generosity and servitude towards others. I tell you today, as muwaleen, as lovers of Fatima and Amir al-Mu'mineen, Abu Turab, we have to be at the forefront of making a positive difference in society today. Wallah, we have a responsibility. Yes, each and every one of us to be ambassadors of these holy individuals in changing positively the lives of others. Yes, doing whatever it takes. Don't cocoon yourself in your own houses and mosques and Husayniyas. We have a different role today to play out there. Yes, we must be out there doing whatever it takes as far as charity work, as far as political activism, as far as lobbying is concerned, as far as being in certain positions to make a difference. Yes, as far as making sure every household in the UK knows who Ali and Fatima are. As far as understanding what our roles and responsibilities are in this country, in this society, to be respectful, honorable citizens, but at the same time productive, at the same time powerfully efficient, and indeed people who recognize that there is an opportunity for us. Wallah, when I look at Syria and Yemen and Bahrain and Iraq, the youth there, they don't necessarily have the opportunity that you and I have. Alhamdulillah, we've come to this country. Many of us have been living here. We have learned the language. We are able to communicate. Yes, we are given relative freedom. We are able to serve. We are able to make a difference on the day of judgment. You stand before the great lady of light and you will say, Ya Fatima, I did what I can to raise the flag of Ali Muhammad. And indeed, she and Amir al-Mu'mineen were the inspiration not only for everyone in society as far as this household of wilayah and strength is concerned, but specifically for their children. And there is one child of theirs which saw masa'ib like no other human being, and I mean it. She is known as Ummul Masa'ib, Zaynab. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا Zaynab. Zaynab saw the broken rib. Zaynab saw the squeezing between the wall and the door. Zaynab saw the slapping. Zaynab saw the whipping. Zaynab saw her mother leaving this world before her. She saw Amir al-Mu'mineen grieving next to the grave of Rasulullah. She saw Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba's liver, yes, being chewed out. She saw Amir al-Mu'mineen being struck and leaving this world. Yes. She saw her sons leaving towards the battlefield and not returning. Zaynab witnessed what? She witnessed Akbar and Qasim. Zaynab witnessed musiba after musiba. She saw Abu Fadil go to get water, but the next thing she heard was him falling on the ground with his right and left being severed. Yes, Zaynab saw all this, but the greatest musiba in the eyes of Zaynab al-Hawra, Aqilatul Hashimiyin, is what? Is losing Abu Abdullah al-Husayn, isn't it? And she would remind Abu Abdullah regarding their mother Fatima. The narrations tell us that when Imam al-Husayn was to leave for the final time towards the battlefield, he heard a voice and a name that broke his heart. He heard a lady call out, Mahlan, Mahlan, Yabna al-Zahra. Oh, the son of Zahra, come back. Wallah, when Hussein hears Zahra, he cannot but return back. He turns back, he looks at Zaynab. You have severed the arteries and the veins connecting my heart. Tell me, why did you call me back? أخي أبا عبد الله انزل من تحت ظهر حصانك. He comes down. She says to him, oh my brother Aba Abdullah, اكشف لي عن صدرك, اكشف لي عن نحرك. Imam al-Husayn now wonders what is going on. Show me your neck, reveal to me your chest. Abu Abdullah al-Husayn does this. Zaynab alayhi salam comes and embraces his chest. She kisses his neck. Then she looks towards Medina. She calls out, Assalamu alayki ya Ummah, ya Fatimah al-Zahra. I have fulfilled what you asked me to do. Abu Abdullah asks, oh my sister Zaynab, what has happened? Why did you do this? She says, Akhi Hussein, on the final moments of the life of our mother Fatimah al-Zahra,
she whispered something to my ears. She says, my daughter Zainab, you'll be amongst the final people to see your brother Abu Abdullah. But when you see him, I want you to embrace his chest and kiss his neck for me. Ah, ya Zainab, why? The chest is where the hooves of the horses will dig themselves. The chest is where the bones will be crushed. When Fatima says the bones will be crushed, she means the bones will be crushed. She feels the pain of Husayn because she called out when her bones were crushed, Ya Abata wa Muhammadah. But the neck will be where the sword and the dagger of Shimr shall sever the head of Husayn. That's why on the night of Sham Ghariba, Sayyida Zainab, when she quietened all the children, yes, on that very difficult night, the narrations tell us that she fell asleep. When she fell asleep, she saw in her dream that there was a daughter of Husayn missing, that the daughter of Husayn was not there. She went out looking in the battlefield. She saw a lady fully covered in black holding this Yatimatul Husayn. Zainab comes to her and says, Ya Amatallah, may Allah reward you. Ajarakillah, hadihi Yatimatul Husayn. You've looked after the orphan of Abu Abdullah. When she takes the child, that lady had her head down. Now she lifts her head. She looks at Zainab. Says, Zainab, do you not recognize your mother Fatima Zahra? Zainab says, Ummah, Fatima, Ummah, don't blame me. Wallah, if you saw what I saw on the plains of Karbala, Ummah, I wish you were there to see what I saw. Ummah, Fatima, I saw the arrow fall onto the eyes of Abu Fadil. Ummah, I was given the body of the 6-month-old with the arrow in his neck. Ummah, I saw Shimr sit on the chest of Abu Abdullah. يا راكبا إن جئت طيبة مقبلا فعرج على مكسورة الضلع معولا وحدث بما مضى الفؤاد مفصلا أفاطم لو خلت الحسين مجدلا وقد مات عطشانا بشط فراتي